All right, we are back again. FAQ time. Let's get it started off. Not a lot of questions, so this video should be relatively short. And my pen nib is fighting me. Um, so first question: what inspires you? This is an interesting question because a lot of different things inspire me. I have, I guess, two different types of inspirational moments that occur. I have moments that make me want to work harder, and then I have moments that I want to try to capture a feeling and try to and recreate it via art or music. And the first one, the biggest thing that probably inspires me is either seeing other people create really awesome artwork or hearing stories about artists who became successful. Now, the other one can come at like any moment. I get these weird moments where it could be you could be watching a movie, you could be hanging out with some friends, or something could happen. It could be a scary moment, like getting into a car accident or something like that. But you get these moments where you have like an overwhelming emotion of some sort, and it could be happiness, sadness, whatever it may be. You get it, and then I get this like weird, it's almost like a deja vu feeling, but where I get inspired to want to say, the way I felt just then, I want to try to capture that and recreate it for an audience. To try to have them experience whatever emotion I was feeling at that time. Which might be a little weird, but that's, I don't know if other people get that. Comment down below what inspires you, and if you ever have moments like that where something will happen or you'll get an emotion and you go, I really need other people to experience this emotion. Let me see if I can try to convey that to someone else. All right, second question is, how did you get into comics and favorite comic? How I got into comics. Now, I don't know if you mean how did I get into being interested in comics, or how did I get into comic art. So I guess I'll answer both questions as much as I can. To answer the first one, I know I've always been a fan of art. A lot of people in my family are artistic, and so I've always been drawn to art of any sort. But I don't know if maybe someone else in my family was into comics. I know, I guess some people were, and I don't know if I felt the need to fit into, I like comics too. But I could tell you, by time I was in middle school, I was pretty heavily influenced by manga. And I got into manga mainly, honestly, from exposure to Dragon Ball Z as a young teenager. And in middle school, me and my friends used to draw, like, whether it was during class or on the bus on the way home, at lunchtime. We would kind of draw fan art and stuff like that. And that's kind of where I really started getting into comic art, and also at the same time getting into manga. And I noticed that the manga often had a lot of storytelling, or whether it was that or just the graphicness was a lot more intense than what was shown on TV typically, especially here in the United States. And so I really started getting into reading manga, and the more I read manga, the more I kind of drew in that art style. Me and my friends would do fan comics. And then in high school, this goes into start answering the second question. In high school, I had a friend who was working on a comic, and I was working on a comic too, actually. That wasn't manga inspired at all. It was actually kind of like an edgy comic meant for edgy teenagers. Um, and but I had a friend who was working on a comic, and I had always been into pen and ink. I mean, for as long as I can remember, I've enjoyed pen and ink. And so they were kind of caught up on the stereotype of what comics should be and how they should look. And they needed someone to ink their comic. Now, they asked me simply because I had a lot of experience and comfort with pen and ink work. So, as a favor, I inked their comic and went from there. And I didn't even realize until later that that was actually a pretty common thing for there to be a standalone inker until much later on when I did some work just inking. Now this pen nib and this ink is not cooperating with me today. I really don't often use these Saji pens, but yeah, so that's how I got into comic books themselves and comic art. The comic art thing was really just a necessity, helping out some friends with some of their projects, and kind of fell into it. And I still prefer inking opposed to doing other things, just because of my love for pen and ink. There's something that I really like about ink. I don't know what it is, but I don't know. Ink is magical to me. There's the blackness you get from a bottle of ink is special to me, and that's one of the reasons why I'm not a big fan of microns, because just you can't reach that same level of pigment out of a fine liner. I mean, I guess out of a technical pen like a rapidograph you can, and that's why I prefer rapidographs over microns for technical work. So there you have it. As far as favorite comic goes, that's again another hard one. I have so many, and right about now I will show a little walkthrough of me and my girlfriend's manga collection, which at this point is getting pretty big, at least in my opinion. So we read a lot of comics now. Favorite comic would probably be, right now, I'll just say which ones I'm reading right now. Right now I'm reading Don Machi, or Is It Wrong to Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon? And I'm kind of all caught up on that one. But another comic that I've read that I really like is Another. Big fan of it. So that would probably be my favorite. I don't know, that's probably my favorite comic. But historically, I think my longest running favorite comic of all time is Gunsmith Cats. That, I don't know. Always been big into firearms as well. And Gunsmith Cats combined hot girls with guns, and it's probably like the best thing ever. At least to me. Now, who's my favorite artist? This is an interesting question, because my favorite artist, just like with favorite musical artists, tends to change quite frequently. So I go through phases of where I'll like a particular artist and just love everything about them, and then I'll kind of forget about their work for a little bit and then move on to something else. And but right now I'd say that I guess one of my long-running favorites is Aubrey Beardsley. And I'll put up on the screen a picture of his work. Pen and ink artist, and really any artist that I'm drawn to tends to be like a high contrast artist, and monochrome. So it doesn't have to be monochrome. There's a lot of classical artists that tend to use high contrast, like single light source. which is what was it called? Chiaroscuro art technique, where it's high contrast, single lit source. Really tend to gravitate towards that type of art style. I don't know why. It's just something. There's something powerful about the high contrast and artworks like that. That's pretty much gonna wrap up, I think, the FAQ, except for I have a bonus question for everyone. The bonus question was asked a while ago, and I don't know if I explained it on the comment section of one of my videos or not, but in case that I didn't, I figured I'd do a live demonstration, and it's gonna be a two-part thing. After I just finish up this black section here, I'm losing myself in my art real quick. But yeah, so the bonus question is, how do I go about either ruling unruled comic paper, so putting the guidelines on them, and cutting out boards from larger boards. So like creating an 11 by 17 comic board from, say, a, I don't know, 20 something by 20 something sheet. So what I'm going to do is, I got a non-photo blue pencil here somewhere. Just regular coal erase non-photo blue pencil. And this is kind of an awkward angle because I'm actually up above my light right now working. But what I'm going to do is, the first thing you do is measure out your 17 inches on one corner. On the other corner, measure out your 11 inches. Right about there. Now, I highly recommend using a T-square for this, but I do not have one anymore, so that's unfortunate. So there's a little bit of guesswork that comes into this. What you can do, I know you can't see this, but if you line up the two lines to the paper, you can, let me see if I can rule this in a way that you can see. You can kind of help ensure that your lines are at least relatively straight. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lightly draw, I hope this is relatively straight here for that. So I just penciled down real quick a light blue line one way. I should be able to get 3 boards out of this. I'm actually gonna have to come up under my light here for this part. Measure on the opposite side 11 inches in from the first mark that you made at 17 inches, and hopefully your lines intersect. So right now I have an 11 by 17 section ruled out. Now, luckily, I only have to cut 2 segments. Now, the other thing I can do is I'm going to flip this board around. Like I said, I should be able, I measured this out before, and it's exactly 22 inches wide, the paper. So I actually have, I can fit 3 boards on here. 2 going this way, and then 1 going this way. So that's kind of what we're gonna, let me zoom this camera out real quick so to give you a better view of what I'm doing here. So I measured down again. I was actually a little off from my intersect point. All right, so now let's start breaking these boards out. I'm gonna use a utility craft knife. You can use an X-Acto knife, such as the one I have here to do this. All right, that looks pretty good there. All right, let's begin our cutting. Taking care not to cut my friggin' fingers off. It takes a couple. You don't want to press down too hard with your knife because that can cause all sorts of issues. And trying to get a good spread on your fingers, applying pressure across as much of the surface of the ruler as possible will help the ruler from shifting. Alright, there we go. You could use a guillotine too to do this, but I don't have one of those. So, alright, so now we're going to come over here and do this segment. There's my line. There's that line. Alright, so that board's done. So on the bottom of my ruler, I actually have stuff that's already ruled. So you'll see that I have an H and a V. So the H means I should be laying it horizontal, like this. And the V means vertical, so I would be doing it from here. We're gonna do the vertical section first. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put the ruler right on here. I'm gonna put some little tack marks here for my bleed, trim, and live. I'm gonna do this on both sides. So right here, and right here. And then we're gonna do the horizontal. I'll flip it this way first. Do that. And we'll go there, and we'll go there, and we'll go there. And then we're gonna flip it this way. And it's gonna go there, there, and there. So right about there, and right about there. And then we'll do the same thing on this side. Haven't done this in forever. Right about there, and right about there. Now, all you have to do is connect the dots. So with this setup, it's hard for me to get right above what I'm doing. Playing connect the dots. All right, there you guys have it. We have a pre-ruled Bristol board in 11 by 17 with all your comic guidelines. Now, so you know, basically what you have here is so that's what you do, 13/16 inch, inch and a half on the top, and on the side you do 1/2 inch, 5/8, and 1 inch. So that's your guidelines there. Nice easy way just to throw some guidelines down to use any old Bristol and possibly cut it down to proper size. Anyway guys, thanks for joining me for the first FAQ. It's a little bit longer than I wanted for my first video. But anyway, leave some questions in the comment section below that you want to ask, and it will be in the next FAQ. We have a month to get the questions in there. So this was going up today, August 4th. It's going to be up tonight. And then, let's see, the next FAQ will go up on the first Sunday. So it'll be September 1st will be the next FAQ. So get your questions in now. Anyway, guys, like the video if you liked it. Comment what you didn't. Dislike it if you disliked it. And everyone have a good one.